This page is the front cover of DC UK Dreamcast Magazine, issue number 6, from February 2000. The main focus is clearly on Crazy Taxi, proclaiming it as Dreamcast's next big thing. There's a vibrant yellow taxi, taking up most of the cover with those recognizable characters, ready to pick up some punters. It also teases Virtua Striker 2, asking if it can topple Wafer Striker, and highlights Sega GT as an exclusive Dreamcast Red Hot Racer. Down the right side, it mentions 42 games reviewed, listing a few including Virtua Striker 2 v 2000.1, Resident Evil 2, Zombie Revenge, Vigilante 8-2, ND Offense, Armada and Tee-Off Golf. There's also a section called Silver Screen Dreams, talking about 5 games that could make it at the movies. It cost £2.95 back then. Good times. Issue 6 features Virtua Striker 2, Sega GT, and Crazy Taxi prominently. Feature articles cover Sega GT, potential Dreamcast movie adaptations, racing games, and new Resident Evil, Code Veronica content. DC Now reviews games like Virtua Striker 2 and Zombie Revenge, while also including the UK Games Chart and Vox Pops. DC Express covers Sega restructuring and spring game releases. DC Faces spotlights Douglas Rushkoff and Ian Livingstone, while DC World offers a Revolt track building guide and other regular content. DC Next focuses on Code Veronica and Regulars lists standard sections. Casperfield's column reviews Virtua Striker 2, acknowledging its shortcomings, but praising Crazy Taxi's addictive gameplay and success, and suggesting readers check out reviews for Resident Evil 2 and Zombie Revenge. The next page showcases The Team from DC UK. It's the February issue, so they are playing on the love theme, with the tagline about love being in the air. We get to meet some of the folks behind the magazine, with write-ups about Keith Stewart, Esther Woodman, Stephen Lawson, Lee Hart, Christian Day, and Carl Jacques. Each person has a little "love is" summary. For Keith it's interesting, but messy. For Esther, boring. Stephen is snuggling up in bed. Lee thinks love is. For girls, Christian says spanking. And for Carl, shopping with the bird when leads are playing. Alongside this editorial piece is a full-page advertisement for the RC Car Racer Revolt, announcing it as coming soon for the Dreamcast, published by Acclaim. It's got some action-packed in-game shots of those nippy little RC cars. Looks like it'll be a fun little racer when it arrives. This DM at IL section features reader letters discussing the Dreamcast. Ed comments on adult content spotted in Akihabara. Will criticizes the graphics of launch titles, Sega Rally 2, and Worldwide Soccer. Gareth notes, Dreamcast advertising is prominent, especially during football coverage, and mentions Soul Calibur. A winner received 4 Dreamcast games. Catalin discusses the development time of Nintendo's Dolphin, GameCube, suggesting Dreamcast's advantage. Andy is advised on obtaining spare parts. Lee is advised to prioritize games over hardware. Stephen asks about the magazine logo and gets a free t-shirt. Thomas inquires about Dreamcast availability in Albania. This page features a review of Virtua Striker 2 v 2000.1, which they call Sega's legendary arcade football game, making its way to the Dreamcast for the first time. The What's the Score section explains D-Cook's review philosophy, emphasizing honest and accurate reviews from experienced video game experts, marking games out of 10. The review itself talks about the general perception in the UK that if a console is going to achieve widespread appeal, it needs a standard-bearing football title. It mentions the yearly chart-topping success of the FIFA franchise and the belief that Brits love footy games and will splash out on a shiny new console if the football game is good. The review says Dreamcast developers haven't been slow to feed this ravenous market with satisfying meat pies in the shape of tasty Worldwide Soccer 2000 and now the tastier Virtua Striker 2. The screenshots show various in-game moments of football action, players from different teams, and the game interface. The complete review box highlights details such as the publisher being Sega, a price of £39.99, release date is January 28, supporting 12 players, and features like extra 60Hz mode, fan entertainment, fun gameplay, and superb graphics, but with against points being too hard and doesn't really feel like football. This page continues the review of Virtua Striker 2. They are saying that fans of the arcade Virtua Striker 2 will be pleased, because the Dreamcast version plays almost identically. The review mentions that while it's not the masterpiece they were hoping for, it's still a good game, especially for arcade football fans. It highlights the simple controls, with one button for pass or foot in tackle, one for long pass/sliding tackle, and volley, which makes it easy to pick up and play. They also mention that new competitions have been added to this home version, including the International Cup and League and Cup tournaments, plus a penalty shootout. Graphically, they note there has been no deterioration in the conversion from the Naomi arcade system, and it still looks fantastic on a home system. The review does point out some faults, mentioning the player controls can be disappointing and unresponsive. They do highlight a nice save feature, the save replay option, which they say is a welcome bonus, allowing you to bore people rigid with replays of spectacular goals. The review finishes by saying despite the faults, Virtua Striker 2 is still great fun to play, though the lack of control can be frustrating at times. The Virtua Striker 2 review analyzes its strengths and weaknesses as a home conversion of an arcade game. The review criticizes the controls, particularly the offside trap and sprint mechanics, which feel imprecise. Despite this, the game offers a decent arcade experience, balancing simplicity and complexity. The review also includes a Virtua history section, tracing the series' evolution since 1995, with Virtua Striker 2 Vir 2000 being the latest version released on a home console. The review highlights the game's fun factor, but suggests it falls short of competitors like Worldwide Soccer or ISS Evolution in terms of long-term playability, ultimately giving it a DC UK score of 6/10. This page is an advertisement for Alone in the Dark IV, proclaiming it as the return of original survival horror. The advert features a dark, Gothic-looking mansion shrouded in shadow, and a gnarled tree branch creeping across the scene. The Edge magazine logo is prominently displayed at the bottom, along with the tagline, "The Future of Interactive Entertainment," and issue details, stating, "Issue 81 on sale January 26th. This review assesses the Dreamcast port of Resident Evil 2, originally a PlayStation title. Unexpectedly announced, the Dreamcast version, built using Windows CE, successfully brought Capcom's survival horror classic to the platform. The game's story of the Umbrella Corporation, the Raccoon City outbreak, and playable characters Leon and Claire is highlighted, along with the game's 2.5D visual style using pre-rendered backgrounds, which offered a strong 3D effect while saving on processing power. The Dreamcast version boasts improved graphics, including sharper textures and a highs mode. Gameplay elements like puzzle solving, resource management, and zombie combat are praised. The review notes the inclusion of Japanese, English, and American English language options, original and arrange modes, plus bonus content like Extreme Battle. The atmosphere of suspense and tension created through empty corridors and room-by-room mechanics is also emphasized, concluding with gameplay tips. This review of Resident Evil Survivor on the Dreamcast highlights its unique, albeit remote, position within the series, differentiating itself through its analog controller implementation. The game excels at creating a suspenseful and terrifying atmosphere, effectively increasing the intensity, particularly in dark environments. The review praises the game for delivering genuinely horrific moments, emphasizing atmosphere over graphic violence. Gameplay screenshots showcase first-person perspective and zombie encounters. The game also includes unlockable bonus missions, graded based on completion time, item usage, and weapon restrictions. However, the review criticizes the game's significant drawback: frequent loading times, especially egregious on the Dreamcast's fast CD-ROM drive. This, coupled with control and pacing issues, leads to frustrating gameplay. Despite these flaws, the review acknowledges the game's ability to provide interaction, trepidation, and enjoyment, demonstrating Capcom's enduring quality. This page showcases Zombie Revenge for the Dreamcast, which, as the title suggests, is right up our street for zombie blasting action. It's pitched as The House of the Dead 2, giving you Summer Arrival of Code Veronica vibes, but this is pure undead mayhem. It's come straight from the arcades, and Sega have brought it to the Dreamcast. The screenshots show the over-the-shoulder perspective, very much in the mold of classic beat-em-ups and light gun shooters. They're highlighting the shadows, reflections, and lighting effects as being top-notch, and a solid 60 frames per second, which is exactly what you want for smooth zombie annihilation. It sounds like it's keeping the arcade feel with nods to Streets of Rage, which can only be a good thing. There's a section called Extra. Read all about it, which details bonus modes in the game. These include a Subish 101 fighting mode, a boss mode where you can fight bosses consecutively, and an original mode. Sounds like they are throwing in a bit of extra longevity for us Dreamcast owners. Overall, it sounds like a solid arcade conversion for some zombie bashing fun on the Dreamcast. Zombie Revenge is a solid arcade-style beat-em-up. The gameplay is familiar, featuring linear paths and zombie-filled levels. The graphics shine, particularly with impressive lighting and effects. While the gameplay can become repetitive, the inclusion of hidden rooms, cooperative play, though potentially frustrating with a weaker partner, and a free play option adds some replay value. The review suggests the game is best enjoyed in short bursts, perhaps in multiplayer. Aimed at fans of coin-op games, it's worth a look if you enjoy the genre. The review ends with a score of 6/10. This page delves into a preview of Vigilante 8-2 ND Offense. It's pitched as a potentially potent cocktail of automotive destruction, blending heavy artillery and a retro-futuristic style, set in 1977 which they joke, only serves to make you violently sick. The preview emphasizes the game's focus on vehicular combat, describing it as deathmatches on wheels. The article notes, the developers at Luxoflux are aiming to refine the concept, suggesting they are building upon the original Vigilante 8. They mention it's been 18 months since the first game on PlayStation and imply this sequel will be a significant improvement. They highlight the chaotic and destructive nature of the gameplay, with a focus on driving around, shooting other vehicles, and causing general mayhem on the road. The piece also touches upon the game's narrative, mentioning a bad guy named Clyde Slick with a mission to destroy America, and hinting at the game's quirky, over-the-top tone, comparing it to Starsky and Hutch with driving sports afros and jumpsuits. It points out the variety of weapons and hover packs, adding to the strategic combat. The screenshots show in-game action with various vehicles in different environments, and some of the user interface elements. The article describes the interactive scenery, varying environments, and weapon pickups, emphasizing the deathmatch element and the somewhat unforgiving nature of the gameplay, especially if you make mistakes. They also mention the multiple combat mechanics and different weapon types available. The next page carries on with the Vigilante 8-2 ND Offense preview. They are talking about the gameplay modes, mentioning there's a welter of them available, like a quest mode with a special mission for each arena, and the usual deathmatch style gameplay. It sounds like you are tasked with collecting briefcases in the levels in addition to just blowing up other motors. However, the reviewer seems less than impressed, saying the vehicle aiming is woefully vague and the battles are pathetically random with no tactics. They reckon it's just mindless destruction, complaining about dented paintwork and clumsy handling. In fact, they've given it a pretty scathing review score, a DC UK 3 out of 10, with the tagline simply offensive doesn't sound like a winner then. Over on the right is a big advert for Netscape Online, promising full internet access for the price of a local phone call. It's got that big logo splashed across it, remember that? Joy, it proclaims, which feels a bit ironic after reading about Vigilante 8. Armada, a Dreamcast shoot-'em-up, is hailed as a massive non-linear experience, owing much to Sinistar. Players protect Confederation races, engaging in trade and combat across a vast universe inspired by Star Trek. The game features missions, but exploration is encouraged, with secret locations, dangerous aliens, and hundreds of enemy ships. Players can amass wealth by attacking supply convoys, marked by flashing green dots. Screenshots showcase intense space battles and trading station landings. Developed by Metro 3D and published by Acclaim, Armada is priced at £39.99 and receives an impressive rating, with praise for its graphics, sound, gameplay and longevity, though it is criticized for a lack of mission variety. This page highlights two upcoming games. First, a review of the space shooter Armada praises its cooperative multiplayer, allowing up to 3 players. The review mentions a challenging Armada Queen boss and calls it a top-class, classic-feeling shoot-'em-up, awarding it an 8/10 score from DC UK. On the right, there's an advertisement for NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC, a fast-paced, arcade-style basketball game from Midway, the makers of NFL Blitz. The game promises chaotic 2-on-2 action with over 120 players and 30 court options. It is described as faster, bigger, and bolder than a Shaq dunk, releasing in late January for Dreamcast and PlayStation. Tee-Off Golf for the Dreamcast is a light-hearted, cartoonish golf game, not a serious simulation. The review playfully highlights its exaggerated claims of being hotter than ever, and mentions a, likely humorous, multi-million-dollar Nike sponsorship. It draws comparisons to Everybody's Golf, or Hot Shots Golf, a game from the same developers, Bottom Up, on the PlayStation, calling it a spiritual successor. The game features bright visuals, bobble-headed characters, and a focus on arcade-style gameplay. While the reviewer notes similarities in post-putting celebrations and other aspects, They ultimately find Tee-Off Golf not quite as polished as its predecessor. Despite this, it's deemed a decent arcade golf experience, especially with its analog stick controls, earning a 7/10 from Stephen Lawson. This page is an advert for Dream Arena and the Sega Extreme Dream competition. It's suggesting we spend a huge amount of time daydreaming, but it only takes 5 minutes on Dream Arena to make those dreams a reality. They're running a competition where you can win your extreme dream, with examples like snowboarding in the Rockies, or flying a MiG jet, or even driving an F1 car. Apparently, every week someone's dream is turned into reality if you enter through Dreamcast Online and their Dream Arena platform. Dreamers never sleep is their tagline, which is a bit much, but it's all about getting online with your Dreamcast. This month's Dreamcast charts are topped by Soul Calibur, followed by Sonic Adventure and Youth Striker. The top 10 also includes Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, Sega Rally 2, The House of the Dead 2, Worms Armageddon, WWF Attitude, Tokyo Highway Challenge, and F1 World Grand Prix. Decuck's List of Love highlights Office Favorites, Darts, Virtua Striker 2, The Point 2.000.1, and Tee-Off Golf. Dreamcasters share their experiences. Rick Gaynor enjoys Virtua Striker 2. Juliet Kaplan and Rob Armstrong played Zombie Revenge, finding it surprisingly fun despite its simplicity. They both appreciated the cooperative gameplay, with Juliet even enjoying the game after being shot in the head by Rob. The next page features a look at Tee-Off Golf, with professional golfer Peter Hancock giving his opinion. It seems to be an article where they're comparing real golf techniques, illustrated with a sequence of photos of Peter Hancock's swing, with the in-game animation of Tee-Off Golf. They're asking if non-golfers will appreciate the game's anime visuals and light-hearted take on golf. The review mentions the game's cartoon-style aesthetics and accessible gameplay, suggesting it's aiming for a broader appeal rather than strict simulation. Peter Hancock himself, described as a professional at Barn Golf Club, seems to be impressed, noting the graphics are superb within its style, and that the game captures the feel of golf surprisingly well, especially the control system, where you press to start, stop for power, and stop a game for accuracy. The screenshots show a colorful, cartoonish style with a simple interface, displaying power meters, wind conditions, and course details like America course hole number 5 and Japan course hole no. 2. They also mention it has professional golfing skills, in that you need to read the green and judge distances, despite its cartoonish look. Overall, it seems to be a positive preview, suggesting Tee-Off Golf is a fun and surprisingly engaging golf game on the Dreamcast, even for a seasoned golfer like Peter Hancock. This page dives deep into Sega's grand plan for the Dreamcast era, declaring a Vive la Revolution. It's all about their massive restructuring and pushing towards networked gaming. They're talking about a millennial shakeup with online play at its core, mentioning Dreamcast owners in Japan already testing a prototype network system where you could play virtual on with potentially thousands of other players. Ambitious stuff, Warrington? Then there's a section called Too Hot to Handle, which is a hypeometer for upcoming Dreamcast games. Coming soon, they've got crackers like Crazy Taxi, Metropolis Street Racer, NBA 2K, and Soul Reaver, all with top fire ratings. Properly exciting games there. Coming not quite so soon, features titles like Choo Choo Rocket, Deadly Pursuit, Hidden and Dangerous, and Power Smash. Still plenty to look forward to. Finally, coming from a long way off, includes games like Black and White, Castlevania Resurrection, and Shenmue. So there's a glimpse of titles further down the line, but definitely on the horizon. All in all, it's painting a picture of a very exciting future for the Dreamcast. This article highlights upcoming Dreamcast news. Midway is bringing San Francisco Rush 2049 to Dreamcast with improved graphics, and Sega of Japan is releasing limited edition, colorful Dreamcasts. Sega's year 2000 software schedule is packed, with Virtua Striker 2, Crazy Taxi, Red Dog, NBA 2K, Metropolis Street Racer, and Zombie Revenge arriving in the early months. Also mentioned are Echo the Dolphin, Space Channel 5, Choo Choo Rocket, Time Stalkers, and Maken X. Soul Calibur reached over 1 million sales, with downloadable content and Japanese voice options available. Sega of Japan cancelled the Milia event in Cannes. Finally, Sega partnered with Mad Cats for Dreamcast peripherals. This issue features a range of Sega-focused content. An article criticizes Electronic Arts for neglecting the Dreamcast, despite its strong launch. A preview of Space Channel 5 highlights its unique rhythm gameplay and stylish visuals. The magazine also covers new arcade releases on the Naomi hardware, including Virtua NBA and 18-Wheeler. A review of Poor Old Arsenal discusses its realism in a football game. Additionally, a review of the Red Devil energy drink and various novelty phone covers, including game-themed designs, is included. Finally, an article titled French Kickers discusses Sega's potential involvement in more realistic football games, mentioning a recent victory for Marseille. The Dreamcast weather map reports on the console status. Europe sees strong sales, with 500,000 units sold and a target of 650,000. Japan is restructuring. Australia experienced a disastrous launch due to stock issues. Universal Studios is developing Dreamcast games, potentially action titles, including work with Konami and featuring Bruce Willis. Dave Perry's Messiah is highlighted as a unique game. The financial press recognizes the Dreamcast's quality. Codemasters is supporting the console with racing games like Colin McRae. The Dreamcast Millennium Cup was won by Warner FC. Japanese reviews praise Resident Evil 2. Radical Bikers hints at a return of motorcycle games, and NFL football games are possibly coming. Crazy Taxi is praised. Virtua Striker 2 receives a lukewarm review. This page is a humorous look forward at the future of gaming from 2001 to 2091. It's presented as a timeline of a game's odyssey. For 2001, it predicts Sega releasing Minecraft, a Dreamcast upgrade allowing control using thought, immediately followed by a price drop. 2003 sees the US Minecraft network crashing. 2008 suggests virtual reality will become popular in the next couple of years, and then by 2009, Nintendo are releasing early details of a new console codenamed Project Alpha. 2023 predicts Sega releasing Solarcast, a solar-powered console. Further down the line in 2033, Sega is at it again with Aquacast, a water-powered console, pictured here looking rather like a bizarre futuristic toilet. By 2065, Sega is predicted to release Galaxy Game, the first console targeted at aliens. Finally, in 2089, Sega is back with VirtuaCast, a revolutionary virtual reality game console, which is pictured looking rather menacing in red and black. It's all a bit tongue-in-cheek and pokes fun at the industry, but it's interesting to see what they thought the future might hold. This page is focused on multiplayer gaming on the Dreamcast. It's titled, Great Video Game Things Special, the multiplayer mode. The feature kicks off by saying gaming is improved by having more than one person involved, and mentions classics like Gauntlet and Breakout as early examples. It highlights the social aspect of multiplayer, preferring it over playing online against distant opponents. The article talks about how Dreamcast multiplayer transforms single-player games, using the game Choo Choo Rocket as a prime example of a simple but fantastic multiplayer experience. It mentions other great multiplayer Dreamcast titles like NBA Showtime and Red Dog, superior firepower. There are screenshots of targeting which must be incoming, lock-on which could be incoming again or perhaps heavy metal, Geomatrix, NBA Showtime, and Choo Choo Rocket. There's a section on the history of multiplayer, stating it was essential from the beginning of video games, with consoles like the Atari and NES supporting it. It mentions developing a multitap for Mega Drive sports games, and Codemasters inventing the JCR for cartridge games to allow 4 players, pointing out the way action is that important. Finally, there are images showing 3 different multiplayer adapters for the Dreamcast: the Agitech Multitap, Performance Multitap, and the Sega-branded official 4-player adapter. The text below highlights the Agitech Multitap being rather tacky third-party effort, the Performance Multitap being the Multitap Daddy, released for PC Engine in '88, and the Sega Multitap being Sony's boomerang-style PlayStation Multitap. This page showcases a section called Trumps, which is all about NBA basketball on the Dreamcast. It's presenting information and stats for different NBA teams, using cards that look like playing cards. The teams featured are the Celtics, Lakers, Bulls, Sonics, Rockets, Hornets, Knicks, Magic, Pistons, Clippers, Jazz, Nets, and Nuggets. Each card has the team logo, a brief background description, and vital statistics for offense, defense, rebound, overtime, and established year for each team. It mentions that NBA 2K is faithful in its representation of the sport and the game has impressive detail. Hasty. Next to this, there's a piece titled Absolutely Fact about the Dreamcast's VM memory unit. It talks about how the VM could save game data even when power was low, comparing it to a mini silicon vampire. The article humorously describes how dedicated Sega fans would go to great lengths to keep their VMS going, even in a world where technology moved on. It highlights the VM's resilience and the lengths people went to maintain their saved games back in the day. It's a nostalgic look at the quirks of Dreamcast ownership and the VM's surprising robustness. In an interview, Douglas Rushkoff, a media commentator and techno-visionary, discusses the evolution of games, films, and the future of entertainment. He highlights the increasing realism in game graphics and their move beyond mere movie imitations towards fantastical realms. Rushkoff explores the convergence of film and gaming, particularly interactive film, and the gamification of television. He considers Hollywood's potential interest in adapting games, noting the storytelling challenge. Rushkoff points to the blurring lines between gaming and traditional media, citing examples like the Blair Witch Project. He playfully anticipates computer-generated characters like Sigourney Weaver, referencing established game characters. Finally, he envisions a future with massive, collaborative gaming environments, hinting at an unprecedented form of entertainment. The next page features an interview in the DC Faces section, this time with the legendary Ian Livingstone. He's described as the head of Eidos Interactive, which at the time was a pretty big name in gaming. The interviewer quizzes him on what Tomb Raider Championship manager Power Stone and the Fighting Fantasy books have in common, and of course it's Livingstone himself. He talks about how he got into the game's business, starting Games Workshop, responsible for a magazine called Owl, and getting into games like Dungeons & Dragons. He then founded a company called Games Workshop, and they even sent a game called Death Trap Dungeon to Gary Gygax. Livingstone gives his thoughts on Dreamcast, saying he's pleasantly surprised by its success and thinks it's great as a publisher, and mentions titles like Power Stone, Soul Reaver, Resident Evil, Veronica and Fighting Force 2 as upcoming games. He recalls the early days of Games Workshop being skint, basically living in a van parked outside a squash club, and how they got good at squash by default. The interview also touches on his move into computer games, investing in Domark and later becoming involved with Eidos, highlighting the acquisition of Core Design and Tomb Raider. It's a nice retrospective on a true games industry veteran. This page is a right bargain bonanza from Gameplay.com, kicking off the new year with a January sale. They're flogging all Dreamcast games for £29.99 or less, which is a steal. Loads of games are pictured, including top titles like Monaco GP, Sega Rally 2, Sonic Adventure, NFL Blitz 2000, Soul Calibur and House of the Dead 2, plus Virtua Fighter 2 and Worms Armageddon getting a look in too. They're pushing their Dreamcast hardware bundles as well, promising a Dreamcast console, a game, wafer striker, and a SCART cable for £249.99. Wakey looks like they're shifting accessories too, with carry cases, dream stations, official keyboards, VMUS, arcade sticks, steering wheels, jump packs, and even VGA boxes and cables all on offer. They are definitely trying to tempt people with the promise of free 48-hour delivery and a money-back guarantee. It's a full-on assault of Dreamcast goodness. Sega GT Homologation Special, a new racing simulation for the Dreamcast, is previewed in an exclusive interview with developers Takeshi Nomura and Hideshi Tatsuno. The game aims to challenge Gran Turismo by focusing on realistic physics and car handling. Nomura, the director and producer, highlights the team's 2-year effort to accurately simulate the feel of licensed cars, with a team of around 40 people dedicated to perfecting the physics engine. The preview emphasizes the importance of simulating car handling differences while maintaining gameplay enjoyment. Screenshots showcase enhanced visuals, including nighttime racing and improved lighting. The game will feature both track and road cars, pushing for a serious racing sim experience distinct from arcade races. The developers are deeply focused on the driver's experience to bring realism to the forefront. The game is slated for an autumn release. Korra. Sega is heavily emphasizing the visual fidelity of Sega GT for the Dreamcast, boasting a higher polygon count than Sega Rally 2. The game centers on car tuning, handling, and customization, promising a depth comparable to building a pizza, with every aspect of the vehicle modifiable. Developers are targeting 60 FPS with detailed car models, aiming for realistic visuals. Sega GT features both simulation and arcade modes, with planned online play in Japan including rankings and ghost data. The game intends to expand its car licenses to include European and American models, with a clear focus on success in the ULOS market. Screenshots highlight night racing, real-time reflections, and a diverse car selection, suggesting Sega's ambition to compete with Gran Turismo. This article previews several racing games coming to the Dreamcast, cleverly titled Race Relations. Titles include Colin McRae Rally 2, promising improved visuals and potential multiplayer. Crazy Taxi, the arcade favorite, is also on the way. Grand Theft Auto 2 is coming to the Dreamcast, featuring car theft and potential multiplayer mayhem. Metropolis Street Racer, from Bizarre Creations, offers realistic driving in real-world locations. Midnight GT aims for a Gran Turismo feel with street racing in Japan. Off-Road, from Rage, promises advanced physics and customization. Rally Championship, a PC port, focuses on a realistic rally simulation. Rally 2, a PlayStation port, boasts enhanced visuals. Finally, Ferrari 355, utilizing Naomi hardware, is expected to deliver arcade-quality graphics with a multiplayer link-up mode and a new twin version. Silver Screen Dreams explores the convergence of Hollywood and video games. Developers increasingly aim for cinematic experiences, influenced by Hollywood's potential for financial success. The article discusses games striving for a Bond-like feel, citing Fantasy the Movie as an example of a 3D action-adventure. It also critiques the evolution from pre-rendered backgrounds, mentioning Final Fantasy. The piece examines the challenges of movie adaptations of games, pointing out the often disappointing results of films like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Wing Commander, and Super Mario Bros. It contrasts the simplistic characterizations common in games with the nuanced characters found in films like Batman and Jaws, while suggesting characters like Lara Croft as a potential model for games. The article is illustrated with graphics and photos related to the topic. Garros. Dreamcast Magazine explores the challenges of adapting games into films, focusing on Grand Theft Auto 2, GTA 2. An interview with Film 4's James Wilson highlights the hit-or-miss nature of game-to-film adaptations, contrasting them with comic book adaptations. Wilson notes, older games are less narratively compelling, while modern games like GTA 2 hold more potential. The magazine reviews GTA 2 as if it were a film, analyzing aspects like plot, pace, characters, and style. GTA 2's criminal rise story, gritty style, and moral ambiguity are examined, drawing comparisons to films like Scarface. The review suggests the game's potential for a film adaptation, perhaps with a Luc Besson style, emphasizing the protagonist's law-breaking while acknowledging consequences. Wilson's thoughts on car crime as a possible hook for a film adaptation, referencing films like Gone in 60 Seconds, are included. Ultimately, the page grapples with the complexities of translating games to the big screen. This page delves into the world of Dreamcast game adaptations, following on from the GTA 2 film discussion. First up, we've got a look at Shadow Man, and blimey, it's certainly living up to its dark tagline with "He's gonna voodoo your ass" plastered across the page. It's billed as a horror movie in game form, taking place in a decidedly dark and morbid world, dealing with serial killers and the realm of the dead. Graphically, they're aiming for a dark and atmospheric experience. James Wilson from Film 4 thinks it has film potential, especially if they can capture its gothic feel. Then we shift gears dramatically with Fur Fighters, the hairiest caper of the year no less. This one's a complete contrast, described as an age of heroes and heavily armed pets, far cry from voodoo curses. The plot pitch is pure platform shooter action, with each character having unique weapons. Think cute animal commandos. They're pitching it as a game akin to Mario and Zelda in terms of style, with hand-drawn animation blended with computer graphics. James Wilson reckons the hand-drawn style and character designs are strong, suggesting it could work well as a film aimed squarely at younger audiences, unlike the darker themes in Shadow Man. The next page presents plot pitches for Fighting Force 2 and Soul Reaver. Fighting Force 2, they're pitching it as a third-person fighting game, a bit like Tomb Raider meets Metal Gear Solid, one-man army style action. They acknowledge the first game had its issues, but they are aiming to improve on it. The budget is around $80 million. Gameplay-wise, it's a straight-up action game, no messing about, described as love interest like Terminator, or X-Files style. Music will be a sweeping orchestral soundtrack. James Wilson from Film 4 seems less convinced about its film potential, saying it's a typical blockbuster action movie, and might feel a bit ordinary and dated already, even then. Then we have Soul Reaver, a sequel to Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain. This one is a 3D third-person adventure game, focusing on exploring a vast world and the complexities of Kain. They're making a point about the game's scale and depth. Visually, they are going for anachronistic technology, like Dracula meets Lord of the Rings. Music is going to be a dark soundscape. James Wilson is more positive about Soul Reaver. He thinks it has a distinctive style, and could work well as a revisionist vampire movie, moving away from typical vampire tropes. He sees potential in its unique look and gothic feel. Subscribe to DC UK Magazine and save 40% over £14 on a 12-issue direct debit subscription for £21. Back issues are highlighted, showcasing a range of Dreamcast games. Issue 2, October 99, featured Power Stone and previews of MD2, Red Dog, and more. Issue 3, November 99, highlighted Soul Calibur's Sophicia, with previews for Fighting Force 2 and others. Issue 4, Deck 99, featured Shenmue and previews of Crazy Taxi. Issue 5, January 2000, showcased Ooh La La from Space Channel 5, with previews for Resident Evil 2, possibly another version, Dragon's Blood, and Virtua Striker 2000. News included Soul Reaver confirmation and potential Rush 2049 release. This page is all about Resident Evil Code Veronica for the Dreamcast, the next chapter in Capcom's zombie saga starring Claire Redfield. They are calling it a DC exclusive title, and it picks up after the events of Resident Evil 2 with Claire searching for her brother Chris. The preview is hyping up the move to fully real-time 3D environments, saying it looks even more detailed than their pre-rendered backgrounds of the past. They are emphasizing the improved graphics and camera work, and teasing new types of fast-moving zombies called fearsome hunters. It sounds like classic Resi gameplay, with puzzles, item combinations, and loads of zombies to blast through. They mention a Japanese release in February, and a summer release for here, so not too long to wait. Capcom is both the developer and publisher, origin is Japan, the zombie type is Flesh Eater, and Ekameta is summer. Crazy Taxi is almost here, releasing for the Dreamcast on February 21st. This version is more than a straight conversion of the arcade game, boasting new modes and enhancements, including the expansive Crazy Box mode set in a new city with shortcuts and real-life locations. The game retains its fast-paced action, enhanced by a West Coast punk soundtrack, featuring The Offspring and Bad Religion. Technically, the Dreamcast version is top-notch, with PAL 60Hz support, VGA compatibility, and improved physics. Players can choose from several camera views, including third-person, zoomed, helicopter, replay, and floating. Developed and published by Sega, Crazy Taxi promises an exciting arcade experience on the Dreamcast. This page is all about the Dreamcast version of Crazy Taxi, which we know is just around the corner. It's showing off some of the new bits they've added that weren't in the arcade. First up is Crazy Box, which sounds like a right laugh. It's a training mode, but not like boring tutorials. It's a grid of 9 different challenges, almost mini-games, to help you get to grips with the controls and the crazy driving style. They've got things like crazy jump, crazy drift, spinning around, picking up folks to throw to their girlfriends, typical Crazy Taxi madness really. It sounds like there's some proper high score chasing to be had, especially with the VM saving your best attempts. Then there's Crazy Bonus, which are extra bits you unlock as you play. They're keeping the first 3 secret, but it shows a screenshot of knocking over bowling pins with your cab, which looks like a good bit of daft fun. Finally, they're showcasing the crazy drivers. We've got Axel the all-rounder, seems a decent chap, Gina the speedy one, for getting those fares done quickly, Brijo, who is clearly the showman, all about stunts and wild driving, and then there's Gus, the heavy hitter, good for just smashing through anything in your way. Each driver has their own style, which is a nice touch. The next page features a couple of games getting a look in. First up, we've got Echo the Dolphin. They're saying it's the best dolphin game since Flipper, which is a bit of a laugh, but you get their meaning. It's all about the pretty graphics and exploring underwater, which they're making a big deal of. Sounds like it's sticking to the original formula, with exploration and puzzle solving. The fine print mentions Sega are publishing it, Appaloosa are developing, it's coming from Hungary of all places, and they reckon April for release. Code and chips to go please mate is a bit of a weird one for the code section, but there you go. Then over on the right we have Dead or Alive 2. They're going on about the lovely ladies and their, well, you know, graphically, it's clearly a step up from the original. On the 32-bit machines, they're banging on about the visuals being amazing and the characters looking great. They're talking about tag team battles and these danger zone stages, which sound like they add a bit of spice to the fights. Apparently, the quality of the visuals is nothing short of breathtaking, and the characters are incredibly detailed. Tecmo are doing the honors on this one. It's Japanese made, and they're aiming for a summer release. They've even cheekily put cheat inflations in the fine print. Cheeky blighters. The article previews 2 upcoming Dreamcast games. First, Soul Reaver, a vampire adventure from Eidos, is getting a graphical overhaul for its Dreamcast debut. Players control Raziel, a vampire seeking revenge, in a game featuring spirit realm switching, puzzles, and combat. The Dreamcast version aims for 60 FPS and boasts improved graphics. The article describes the atmosphere as staggering. Second, Architera, developed by in-house and published by Ubisoft, promises a unique adventure game with a 70s Europop theme. Players explore a world inspired by the Eurovision Song Contest, saving the world from an evil gang. The game is non-linear, with multiple outcomes, drawing comparisons to Blade Runner and Baldur's Gate. While unconventional, the game promises colorful characters, spells, and magical weaponry, with an Eater of Spring. The page previews 2 games. Four-Wheel Thunder is an arcade-style monster truck racer, similar to Hydro Thunder, with arcade and championship modes. It aims to appeal to British players, and emphasizes customized trucks and slippery physics. The graphics are reportedly sharp, suggesting it could be enjoyable for fans of the genre. Deadly Skies is a flight shooter, a PAL conversion of Air Force Delta. Konami renamed it for the European market. Disappointingly, the conversion lacks a 60 Hz option and new features. The game is a mission-based shoot-'em-up set in a war-torn Laconia, involving destroying enemy targets and earning money to buy over 30 realistic aircraft. Despite the basic conversion, it seems to be a solid flight combat game. Wow. This page looks at Plasma Sword, which is being previewed as a new weapons-based fighter for the Dreamcast, and they seem quite impressed with it, wondering if it can stand up to Soul Calibur. They are saying it's from the same stable as Power Stone and Street Fighter Alpha 3, and Marvel vs. Capcom, and that Capcom are really pushing the boat out for the Dreamcast already. They previously previewed the game calling it Plasma Sword, and are now showing more screenshots. It seems to be a conversion of the PlayStation Fighter Star Gladiator 2, but has undergone a name change for the Dreamcast. Graphically, it's apparently not as sharp as other Dreamcast fighters like Soul Calibur or Power Stone and Capcom's Power Stone, and doesn't look like a next-gen title, but they admit the gameplay is fantastic. On the right side, there is an advert for Simply Games, who are selling Dreamcast games from £29.99, peripherals from £19.99, and offering free delivery, with a website address listed as simplygames.co.uk. The ad lists games including South Park Rally, Sonic Adventure, Shadow Man, Metropolis Street Racer, House of the Dead 2, UEFA Striker, Soul Calibur, Red Dog, Toy Commander, Fighting Force 2, Ready 2 Rumbles, and Marvel vs. Cap.com. This page kicks off with an advert for Deactips Dreamcast Solutions, a new magazine offering all the cheats and tactics you need for Dreamcast games, promising to help you out, even with your girlfriend troubles. Judging by the headline, it's priced at £3.99 and is from the makers of DC UK Dreamcast Magazine. On the right, we have the contents page for DC World for everything Dreamcast. Inside, you'll find review listings, an advice column from Auntie Esther, and a feature on Revolt track building. There are also top secrets for NFL Blitz 2000 and UEFA Striker, a special article on coin-op games and Dreamcast, and coverage of online gaming and Dreamcast-related toys. Lee's Team Diary is in there, and a preview of next month which features Crazy Taxi. Finally, there's a piece called Brain in a Jar. The page includes images of Jill Valentine from Resident Evil, gameplay from Revolt, and a collection of arcade racing game screens. This Dreamcast review covers various games and peripherals. Blue Stinger, 3/10, offers adventure with potential. Buggy Heat, 6/10, is a fun racer with online features. Chef Lushak, 6/10, provides South Park humor. Evolution, 5/10, has good visuals but repetitive gameplay. Expendable, 6/10, is a classic action game. F1 World Grand Prix, 7/10, is a simulation for racing fans. Fighting Force 2, 7/10, is a classic beat-em-up. House of the Dead 2, 8/10, is a must-have light gun game. Hydro Thunder, 7/10, is a visually impressive boat racer. Incoming, and Jimmy White's 2 Cue Ball both score 5/10, with the latter aimed at pool fans. Marvel vs. Capcom, 6/10, is solid for fans of both genres. Peripherals include a praised joystick, a massive arcade stick, a decent wheel, and a recommended keyboard. This DC World page reviews several Dreamcast games. Monaco GP, 6/10, is a decent arcade racer, while Mortal Kombat Gold, 5/10, is for fans. NBA Showtime, 6/10, offers fast-paced basketball. NFL Blitz, 8/10, provides over-the-top action. Power Stone, 9/10, is a Dreamcast gem with innovative gameplay, and Ready 2 Rumble, 8/10, delivers classic arcade boxing fun. Revolt Revolution, 7/10, is a Micro Machines-style racer. Sega Bass Fishing, 7/10, is surprisingly enjoyable. Sega Rally 2 7/10 is still solid despite its age. Shadow Man, 9/10, is a great 3D adventure. Snow Surfers, 3/10, is best avoided, while Sonic Adventure, 9/10, is a fantastic 3D adventure with RPG elements. Reader reviews highlight House of the Dead 2 and Shadow Man as favorites. DC World reviews Dreamcast games, starting with Soul Calibur, 10 out of 10, a must-own system seller. Other scores include Soul Fighter, 4/10, Speed Devils, 7/10, Street Fighter Alpha 3, 8/10, Suzuki All-Star, 5/10, and Toy Commander, 7/10. On the right side, Trick Style, 9/10, UEFA Striker, 8/10, Virtua Fighter 3T, B, 7/10, Worldwide Soccer 2000, 7/10, Worms Armageddon, 8/10, and WWF Attitude, 6/10, are reviewed. Reader reviews praise Sonic Adventure and highlight the Dreamcast's appeal for wrestling games, with one reader preferring Japanese wrestling titles and Soul Calibur over other wrestling games. In the Ask Auntie Esther advice column, readers sought Dreamcast-related guidance. Michael Flanagan inquired about Sega's Dreamcast support, receiving reassurance about zip disks, DVD use, and online gaming. John Alexander asked about flight sims, and Esther noted their scarcity, suggesting action games like GoldenEye instead. Bob Price's modem question was met with the advice that his 56K modem would suffice. Dave Shea received tips for online gaming and web surfing. John's Sonic Speed Challenge woes were met with encouragement. Other questions covered video clip playback and a Saturn emulator for Dreamcast. A hardcore hardware info box showcased the Dreamcast's advanced specs, including its processor, graphics chip, GDRAM drive, sound chip, and memory. The page also included screenshots, featuring Miss Mellon and the Speed Highway stage from Sonic Adventure, plus a Crazy Taxi advert. This page offers a player's guide to track building in Revolt, titled, Track Building in Revolt Revolution. It seems to be giving tips on how to use the track editor in the game. There are 10 numbered sections, each with a tip and a screenshot demonstrating it. The tips cover elements like hills, jumps, gradients, bridges, pipes, chicanes, start grids, banks, corners, and design in general. It encourages creative track design and mentions things like using straight track modules for hills, ensuring edges match up, creating smooth jumps, considering car types for gradients, using bridges, pipes as a feature, and designing chicanes that are challenging but fair. The guide also advises on corner design for better racing, and suggests incorporating design elements inspired by real-world locations, even suggesting recreating tracks from magazines. It looks like a helpful guide for getting the most out of Revolt's track editor. This page is packed with top secrets for UEFA Striker and NFL Blitz 2000, all the cheat codes you could need, things like big footballs, invisible receivers, super speed, all that kind of lark, for both games. There's also bonus player info for NFL Blitz 2000 if you fancy unlocking some extra characters by entering names and pins, classic stuff. Flicking over to the right, it's a big advert for Software First, pushing their website where you could pick up any Dreamcast game for £14.99. What a steal back in the day. They've got game screenshots to tempt you, showing off titles like Resident Evil 2 with Leon Kennedy battling zombies, Shadowman looking moody in the swamps, Street Fighter Alpha 3 with Ryu and Chun-Li throwing down, and WWF Attitude with The Rock laying the smackdown. They're also showing off UEFA Striker, which ties in with the cheats on the other side, and Soul Calibur, always a looker. Below that are more games listed with prices, stretching from games like Aerowings and Crazy Taxi right through to Virtua Fighter 3, TB and WWF Attitude again. They're pushing accessories too, Dreamcast controllers, memory units, and even steering wheels, all at tempting prices. It's basically a one-stop shop for your Dreamcast needs. This article explores upcoming Dreamcast arcade conversions, starting with a Sega interview discussing the Naomi arcade hardware's close ties to the Dreamcast, facilitating accurate ports. Examples like Virtua Striker 2 and Zombie Revenge are highlighted. Ferrari 355 Challenge and Twin is a realistic driving simulator from AMR&D 2, promised for autumn. The article praises its detailed Ferrari model, challenging gameplay, and potential for an even better experience on the Dreamcast. Jambo Safari, also from AIM R&D 3, is described as a crazy taxi/get bass hybrid where players, as game wardens, catch animals. Its conversion to Dreamcast is anticipated to be seamless. The article concludes by emphasizing these aren't just straight ports, with new levels, online features, and secrets being added to the Dreamcast versions. The Dreamcast is getting a wave of arcade conversions. Summer releases include Outrigger, a fast-paced first-person shooter with multiplayer support, and Virtua Tennis, boasting impressive graphics and accessible gameplay. Also coming are Emergency Call Ambulance, a city driving game reminiscent of Crazy Taxi, and Brave Firefighters, a fun, chaotic firefighting game. Release dates are unknown for these AMR&D1 titles, as well as for Airline Pilots, a commercial airline simulator. Finally, Samba de Amigo, a rhythm action game using maracas, is expected in the autumn. The next page delves into the world of import gaming on the Dreamcast, kicking off with Virtual On, Oratorio Tangram. It's hailed as the pinnacle of arcade mech fighting, and it's finally made its way to Sega's home console. The article highlights the intense 3D arena battles and the game's controls, mentioning you can use the standard Dreamcast pad or the proper twin stick for the full arcade experience. They also touch upon the online play aspect, which was quite exciting at the time, hinting at future European online gaming possibilities. Moving on, we have a preview of Make an X, which sounds like a bit of a departure from the norm. It's a first-person action game, where you wield swords and blades rather than guns. The article mentions something called brainjacking, which lets you take over the bodies of different characters, adding a strategic layer to combat. Make an X is described as quite innovative, with a focus on swordplay and storyline, setting it apart from typical first-person shooters. This page in Dreamcast Magazine features an import roundup, kicking off with a look at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It seems to be a Japanese import title from Capcom, described as a belt-em-up style 2D fighter, with a nod to its graphic novel origins, and Joseph Joestar as the main character. They mention it's a package deal with Heritage for the Future, and boasts crazy Japanese arcade-style gameplay. The review highlights a new stand button and tag team mechanics. It's compared favorably to Street Fighter games, particularly Alpha 3. Next up is NBA 2K, an import due in February. This one's from Visual Concepts and is described as a more sim arcade-style basketball game, inspired by NBA Showtime. They're impressed with the graphics, especially the court reflections. It seems to strike a balance between arcade fun and simulation, with options to tweak realism. The reviewer mentions the impressive animation and the dunking madness of Showtime. Over on the right side of the page, there's a big advert for a UK Dreamcast bundle deal at £169.99. Promoting it as having the hottest products and coolest prices. It mentions free delivery and £50 money off vouchers. Below that is an advert for Simply Games, highlighting their website and a free phone number. They're advertising games from £29.99, peripherals from £19.99, and a price-beating guarantee. They specifically list keyboards, PlayStation games, Dreamcast games, and PC games as being available. This magazine page features Dreamcast content. It reviews a DualShock adapter, allowing PlayStation controllers to be used on the Dreamcast. Essential import gaming tips are provided, covering TV compatibility and SCART leads. A top 10 import game chart from Project K reveals Virtua Striker 2 at number 1, followed by titles like Zombie Revenge and Soul Calibur. A top 5 most requested games list includes Shenmue and Crazy Taxi. Project K's price list details Dreamcast imports, including consoles, accessories, and games, and also features second-hand games and VGA cables. Finally, there's an advertisement for Lightning Games, a retailer of Dreamcast and PlayStation games. This article from DC UK explores Dreamcast internet browsing, Surfs Up details the editor's experience, and a poll where Space Harrier beat Golden Axe for a potential Sega update. The site update covers polls, talk, and music, including weird samples. The live section discusses evolving polls, like one asking about the oldest Dreamcast game people still play, with Chef from South Park surprisingly popular. Sites for Sore Eyes recommends websites optimized for the Dreamcast browser, including sites for hunting, Drianjing, creative writing, and classic TV. Reader sites spotlights Pesius, a Sega Rally 2 fan site, and Dreamcast World, a news and reviews site. Other sections touch on a Japanese magazine website, Choo Choo Famitsu, a pizza delivery service, Dream Pizza, compatible with the browser, and guides for navigating websites not designed for the Dreamcast. Essential Info provides definitions for key internet terms. Powered Down presents a collection of quirky toy ideas. First, a homemade spaceship, costing around £50, inspired by Red Dwarf, encourages space battle scenarios. Second, a golf putting machine, priced at £7.50, targets busy professionals. Third, Resident Evil 2 figures, also £7.50, feature blocky zombie characters, with potential tongue-wagging action. Lastly, a red Chevelle car, at £17.50, is suggested as a little alien man toy, drawing on its NASCAR history and offering potential for a Vigilante 8 game. The collection showcases a diverse range of toys. The next page is a bit of a mishmash, kicking off with the Team Diary, chronicling the DC UK team's antics. Looks like they've had a busy December, starting with a late night after a deadline, and then carrying on with office games of Tekken and general messing about, which sounds about right for magazine folk. There's mention of Carl's birthday involving an obligatory football cake, and some questionable fancy dress choices at a common garden sheep botherer, whatever that is. They also had a future publishing Christmas party. Naturally, there's a bizarre little section called Edible Undies, showing a man-to-lamb book, no idea what that's about, probably some office humor thing. Over on the right, they've got their regular body parts feature, this month focusing on foreheads, showing off the team's gleaming domes. Casper Field, Lee Hart, Stephen Lawson, Carl Jacques, Keith Stewart, Cousin It, and Christian Day all get a mention. Finally, Stephen Lawson's hip-hop column is back, reviewing albums from Public Enemy, De La Soul, and Raekwon's Only Built 4 Cuban Links, which is proper classic hip-hop. That Raekwon album was the business back then, produced by RZA, quality tunes for driving games, you know the sort. This page is teasing the next issue, with a double whammy of Sega games, Crazy Taxi, and Red Dog taking center stage. Looks like they're billing them as a nice pair of hits for a February to remember, promising some big exclusive content and more good stuff besides. There's a glimpse of the Dreamcast console logo and the magazine's branding, confirming it's a DC UK Dreamcast Magazine preview for issue 07, slated for release around Friday, February 18th. We get a few screenshots. Classic Crazy Taxi action with the cab, passengers and that instantly recognizable arcade vibe, plus some glimpses of Red Dog with its futuristic combat vehicles in action, in various environments from beaches to snowy terrains and city streets. Looks like Red Dog is a bit of a vehicular combat game, from what we can see in those shots. This piece highlights several Dreamcast games. Paul Rose praises the console's appeal, particularly for a disembodied brain. Power Stone is lauded for its interactive 3D fighting, while Soul Calibur impresses with its gameplay and character roster. Hydro Thunder is praised for its water effects and fast-paced boat racing, and Worms Armageddon gets recognition for its strategic depth. Trick Style, inspired by Judge Dredd, is noted as a favorite. Beyond game reviews, the article advertises Special Reserve Club membership, offering free gifts like controllers, memory cards, and armchairs with different deals. It also features hardware bundles, including a deal with Sega Rally 2, and promotes Special Reserve Big Club shops and their discount network, though details are generic.